I want to ask you guys about all of your biographies and like identities and how those intersect with the work that you're doing, or with what you are doing around Palestine and also around challenging people like Torres and Lawler.
As like a queer anti-Zionist Jew, like I think it's interesting and absurd how Richie has become so comfortable about speaking with authority on Jewish issues. The other night he tried to explain what Hanukkah was, and as a Jew, I'm like, it's a little weird how comfortable you are talking with authority. You're not a clergy member, you're not Jewish. It's just a little strange. Um, so not this past summer, but the summer before, I actually had a tweet, which surprisingly didn't get me blocked. It was the tweet after this, but I said to him, I said, I have to say how thoroughly tired I am of Richie Torres speaking on behalf of Jews. I said, there are Jewish New Yorkers that believe that Israel is an apartheid state, that BDS is not anti-Semitic, and do not need a non-Jewish member of Congress smearing people in their name. And this is actually when he went on a smear campaign against Ilene, who was running for NY20, which is now Dan Goldman's seat. And he mouthed me off in his own way. But surprisingly, actually non-surprisingly, who responded to him was Christina Pushaw, who is a top aide of Ron DeSantis. And she said, I wish all Democrat politicians were more like you.
Right.
And again, I think it's another instance where pinkwashing falls on its face, that he's, mouthing off a queer anti-Zionist Jewish New Yorker here, and the top aide of one of the most homophobic decision makers in our country is applauding him.
And I think also to talk about what Jason has been targeted by Richie many times on social media, and it really does speak to how out of touch, or how deliberately, and I don't want to say out of touch because I think this is deliberate choice on the part of the Torres office. To choose to target a progressive queer Jew in New York City is a publicly facing choice on behalf of like who his base is, which are the right wing, which are the center leaning and right wing Zionists. And so for him to go after somebody like Jason, it really speaks to how much he has chosen the side of the culture war, which is also very much embedded in the Jewish community right now. And I think Jason and I are both representative of not, I don't want to say a generational shift, but a very large cultural shift in the Jewish world right now, where many of us who are anti-Zionist have actually chosen to not only step out of or step away from, but turn around and reject the institutions that we've come from. So the action that we took this past week was really a direct one for people. I think Jason mentioned earlier that he worked for the 92nd Street Y, and I'm a rabbi's child, and I was raised in Jewish institutions as well, and raised very Zionist, and I also have Israeli citizenship. So to go into these institutions as somebody who comes from them, and then to turn around and say, I reject you, I call you out from your inside, to me feels like a very significant part of the work, because for many years, many of us in the anti-Zionist Jewish movement just simply left, simply walked away, and they were able to say, oh, those are fringe Jews. This is what both Ritchie Torres and Michael Lawler and the 92nd Street Y have said, and AJC have said. They refer to us as fringe, they refer to us as outsiders. Ritchie Torres used the word astroturf, anti-Israeli, which I have never heard before, but which was very funny.
About us, right?
None of us are
not about you guys on Thursday, right?
Yeah, like Richie here is a constituent of Ritchie Torres. I was raised between Queens and Westchester. Jason is a New Yorker. We are all real New York constituents. We are all real New York anti-Zionists. And so to claim that we are somehow astroturf, like, please, who's paying us? Like, show me.
I wish.
I wish. Show me the funds. Like, this was an incredible incredible example of what organic grassroots organizing looks like. So this was people who were motivated by something, had an idea, took it and ran with it. And I genuinely hope that people see this as a model for how things can be successfully done, because it, it wasn't difficult. It just took some time, some motivation, and some focus. And I think that we did a really successful job at shutting down their event. Um, and like I was saying earlier, I think it's vital for us to not only be outside of the room protesting against them, but shutting them down from the inside and taking a stance. And um, one of the things I also know is that even within the Jewish institutions, there are many, many people who are questioning or even anti-Zionist and really wondering why their organizations are behaving the way they're behaving. So another thing that we were hoping to do was to highlight the fact that we're in the building. We're in the building and the walls are going to come down, and there's nowhere, anywhere that Zionists can meet without having to hear from us that they have blood on their hands. And I felt like we really took it to them.
Just wanted to show the visuals of what Jason was talking about. Here's his tweet. So Jason writes, this is pretty stunning to watch play out. Richie Torres gets an emphatic endorsement on his attack of me from Christine Pusha, press secretary of Ron DeSantis of Don't Say Gay bill, and someone who herself pushed Rothschild anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So Jason had said originally, I have to say I'm thoroughly tired of Richie Torres speaking on behalf of Jews. There are Jewish New Yorkers that believe that Israel's an apartheid state, that BDS is not anti-Semitic, and do not need a non-Jewish member of Congress smearing people in their name. And then Richie writes, I do not pretend to speak for anyone but myself and express any opinion but my own. It's a free country, and I have a right to express whatever opinion I wish on whatever topic I wish. And if you have an issue with that, that's your damn problem. Uh, and then Christine Pushaw writes, I wish all Democrat politicians were more like you.
It's incredibly dangerous to have these so-called, I mean, I want to call Richie Torres the AstroTurf progressive. It's incredibly dangerous to have them targeting real progressives, real Jews, queer New Yorkers so publicly as a method of attracting their base who are violent, their base who are motivated to do harm. I mean, we saw in the video the other night how angry these people
Yeah.
are. So they're yelling about doxing us, and I don't think those people really know what doxing is, but
Oh, yeah. But they were saying, we're going to dox the shit out of you. We're going to dox
they are
every one of you
motivated by
motherfuckers.
violence, and I think any of us who have been targeted publicly by them, it's very scary to have this mob, they're a
Yeah.
mob, come after you. And I know Jason has been targeted by it. I know many of us have been on the receiving end of it, and just the way that Richie repeatedly targets Jason specifically, it turns into something that feels very sinister, and becomes a question of why. What's the political goal of repeatedly targeting a New York queer Jewish activist?
He screenshot some of my tweets without tagging me and said I was like, exhibit A of anti-Semitism. Yeah, I was shocked by the response of the audience because I was there. Let's actually show a short video. I think it's like a minute, a little mashup of what I captured.
You, how you're thinking about the Abraham Accords right now, because it's clear that you've both been involved in trying to promote it and for October 7th, and now we are in a moment when we have
Lawler, Torres, you
They were really aggressive, the security. There's Roz Pichesky, who's been on the show, who's 81, older than the state of Israel, as she likes to say.
Next to me was one of them. I know. She looked like this old Jewish lady.
And there you see.
I'd love to hear
So, were you surprised by the vitriol from the audience?
It was very aggressive. I expected a response, but the level, the immediacy was actually shocking.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet recently that said something like, I expected this level of I expected this level of violence and vitriol and hatred, but I still find it shocking
Yeah.
about everything going on in the world. And I think that that's really how I felt the other night. You were there, we were all there, and it was this room of a bunch of people who came out on a Thursday night for to sit and have a good time listening to their congressman, and they're all congenial, nice people, I want to say nice Germans. Um, and uh, and they turned so fast. The minute Foxy started speaking, the minute Richie's group got up, the minute I started, the minute the next disruption started, and just how immediate and how ready they were to tussle, to be combative
Yeah.
was really probably the most shocking. And I mentioned that I come from Jewish institutions, so in some levels I was prepared for what the racism might look like. But like, I think having brought in people who come from outside our community, I really had an opportunity to kind of reflect in the immediate moment how shocking it was. People were referring to it like feeling like they were at a Klan rally, and I absolutely felt that as well.
I'm not surprised because we've held protests outside of Richie Torres's office, as I mentioned before. And when he's tweeted about the protests on his social media page, I'll see the comments that are written by his Zionist fan base, I guess. And they're usually always saying like, next time call in the National Guard to stomp them out. Why isn't the cops there to beat them up? Like they'll literally say these things like on social media. So, Zionism is fascism, and it was very evident by by the crowd's reaction that they wanted nothing more than to, you know, throw us to those very rough security guards that actually, violently attacked several of the folks that were part of this disruption.
Yeah, I was surprised that right away they were so physical with the protesters. I thought they would, like, approach them and, like, walk them out, but, they were very physical, and then there's this one moment where, um the people are chanting, get her out." And a woman, actually, a younger woman, grabbed this older woman, like, by the sweater, by her sleeve, and pulled her off the chair, which I was kind of surprised about. It's just funny because these people try to play so proper Upper East Side, and it was really funny because that woman, I was sitting next to Roz Pacheski, who's, as I said, she's 81 years old, and she likes to point out that she's older than the state of Israel. And after she left, I stayed behind because I wanted to get audio of the rest of it. And after she left, this woman next to us is like, "Oh my god, one of them was sitting next to me, and I thought she was a nice Jewish old lady like me."
I
Um,
want that on a t-shirt.
yeah, I know, it's great, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and I also want to add, it's a really, interesting vantage point, protesting an event at your former employer. So you have an idea of what, clients or like attendees would be there. But I was also like before I was mentioning to our, really great grassroots coalition of disruptors, that the Y security guard are ex cops. So I was like, bring your full self, you know, make sure that we watch out for each other because this is really no joke. And it was interesting to like not only like, be there, you know, protesting an event at your former institution, but also being assaulted by your former colleagues. That's a very, visceral experience, especially for those who have experienced police brutality or, have different relationships with cops. And that's what I wanted to ensure that we, especially all got out safe and that everyone was taken care of both before and after the event. But it was a very strong thing that a lot of us experienced. A
Had
colleague
you
of mine,
overlapped with
yeah.
them? Sorry, had you overlapped with any of the security guards?
Yes, yes. Some of them were new. Like the one who manhandled me was new, and so I didn't know who he was. Um, but yeah, it's like one of those things like that you that you both expect but don't expect. Because
Yeah.
I expected the vitriol in the room. I didn't expect it to get that unruly. I expected the security guards to be rough, but I didn't expect them to be that rough. So it was a very, reality check, mask off thing that happened that Thursday evening.
I think the
Well,
descent
yeah,
into chaos that you
yeah.
show, it really shows how poorly they handled the room and handled our disruptions. So, I mean, that really drives home what we did was effective, even though we had, we did end up receiving such a violent pushback from the crowd and from the security. But because they were so ready to disrupt their own event by hunting for disruptors in the crowd, looking for, and starting fights. It really speaks to why this kind of thing is effective as a model.